Hello and welcome to the Disregarding Dice Battle Report. The second one in this series will have these novitiates face off against Kyle's commandos in a fast-paced battle report that'll grab only the action and none of the dice. To go over the novitiate operatives, we have the Superior with Plasma Pistol, 2 Pergadas with Flamers, a Condemner with Stake Thrower and Null Rod looking to score crits, a Pronatus who will raise their relic but technically has an auto pistol and gun butt, the Eviscerator who will be holding a crack grenade along with her Eviscerator melee profile, and an Exactor who will grant an APL and plus movement to that Penitent, as well as a Dialogus to give out APL to any operative, a Hospitaller Medic that will save some ladies from dying, and then a Militant with Blade and Autogun. Then we have the Commandos. We'll start out with a Commando Boy with Choppa and Slugga. Next will be the Comms Boy, who can give 1 APL to any of the orcs. A Breacher Boy, who can go through walls. A Burna Boy with an amazing little glove detail there. A Daka Boy, who can dash along with shooting. A Slasher Boy, who is quite the operative in combat. A Sniper Boy, who will be able to shoot for conceal or have Torrent. A Rocket Boy, who has a incredible blast profile. The Knob, who can grant APL as well as just having that big choppa. And the Bomb Squig and Grot, blowing up or stealing objectives. So we decided to use the Turning Point Tactics map pack. I think we ended up rolling map number 3, and the mission is Capture. Looking at this map, I can notice a ton of heavy terrain in the center. Pre-Sneaky Git changes, where my opponent could use this 3 times, I think this map would be just almost an auto win. But with only 1 Sneaky Git, I think there is a game to be had here. I see in the middle, there is this almost valley between these 2 L shapes on the terrain on the right side of the map, and I end up choosing the right side on the camera because there is an objective that actually goes under one of those L shapes that I thought would be a great place for me to stage some models, because I think I'm going to have a really hard time moving onto the other side of the map just looking at the setup here, especially with commandos having so many ways to forward deploy or quick deploy toward the center of the map. So because I ended up choosing side, that means I am defender, so I'm going to place the first barricade, and this barricade placement I'm a pretty big fan of, which is placing a barricade right next to a scramble pile, because you actually can't scramble over a piece of terrain. So this stops any kind of scramble over onto my objective there, making this relatively safe. Nice little outpost for my models. Next, my opponent is going to place a barricade on their home objective on the right side of the map, making so they can move through that door to a nice place in the center of that objective. I ended up placing a barricade on the far left of the map to stop any kind of orcs from moving through. They'll have to scramble over, then the turn after they're going to have to traverse. Just makes far left flank very, very slow. And then last, my opponent places a barricade on that far top right objective, giving them a place to come into the center of the board and play on that right side of the map. Deployment looks like this from the orc player. The Sniper Boy ends up at the top of the screen there, set up and ready to shoot from vantage on Conceal in the middle of the board with Sneaky Git. And our Grot is to the far left, ready to grapple onto a point somewhere. The Knob and the Bomb Squig end up on the right, with the Comms Boy, the Breacha, and a regular boy on the left, leaving the other operatives behind the wall with the Knob. And here's Novitiate deployment. With only 2 operatives on the right, that leaves 8 operatives behind the heavy cover on the left. This is simply the best places I see to deploy my models while remaining safe. As a side note, I hear a lot of players say that it's very hard to set up safe deployments on boards that they play on. You might want to take a moment to look at just how grouped up one can be behind a wall to ensure you're safe, and sometimes deployments like this that are very unintuitive but super grouped up are the correct play if you want to make sure you are not going to give any shots turning point 1. All right, right before turning point 1, this Rocket Boy dashes up into this vantage, and our first activation is going to be the Breacher Boy going far left to that barricade. Next, I move my Pronatus up to get onto that point to raise the relic, giving me some faith points, and place her behind that barricade as I think she's pretty safe, as that scramble terrain is going to stop many orcs from getting over. Next, the Normal Boy moves up behind the door, blocking any ingress from my enemy models. Next, I move up my Hospitaller onto the far right point so she can heal anyone who might need to, like the militant who's going to be coming up in just a second. The Daka boy moves up onto that point to, I think, move toward the center of the board. And not pictured here, as she's hiding, my Exactor has whipped the Penitent, giving her +2 move, and then moved into this Boiler's divot onto that point underneath that vantage there. Next, the Burna boy is going to move up using that heavy cover to move into the center, and I think just tiptoeing onto that center point. Now, I give my comms to the leader, and then she is just going to make a slight move to get out of the way of all of my other sisters. The knob is activated, I think gives a APL to the Slasha, and then moves behind that door so they can burst onto the center of the field in turning point 2. I was pretty surprised to see that, as that leaves the Rocket Boy up on vantage with no cover, so this is something my opponent just failed to see. I use my move and dash with my leader's +1 APL, take a plasma shot at that Rocket Boy, and end up removing them from the game. The Slasher Boy moves into the center of the board, again behind that door, so just getting in towards that center and making sure I don't have any shots. Now I think it's time for my Militant, who's magnetized and a little wonky here, to move up onto that point while also being kind of safe from the medic as she may revive her. Then the Shuda will shoot from conceal onto that Militant, and here I have a pretty interesting decision if I want to go down to 4 faith points, or if I want to stay at 6 for a Great Crack Grenade. I choose to let the shot go through with no blinding aura, but that will mean my medic must revive my Militant. My Pergoddess is going to move up the board, just getting centered, so she might go to either of the center points next turning point with that Flamer, move, dash, and shoot. Next, the Comms Boy will move up, taking cover from that heavy. To bide my time and wait, I activate both my Flamer and my Condemner, making some less than 2-inch moves, while the Squig makes an activation over there, saving my Penitent for last, as she's going to move forward and throw a Crack Grenade that will remove that Burna Boy going into turn 2 with 2 Orcs down and 10 Novis on the board. End of turn, we end 3-2 on primary, which is a great start for me as Novis into Commandos. There's 1 point on the board that no operatives have been able to get to, and that is unfortunately where my recover item and reconsecrate ground is, but I am able to take 3 points on primary from removing an Orc. That means 2 Orcs down, meaning 9 models on the table, left to my 10 models on the table. Going into turn point 2, pretty much the best I could hope for, so I'm pretty happy with this turn. A little bird's eye view from the turn. We can see with the first activations, both players are slow rolling, moving things onto points. My opponent on the left side taking that point, me on my left getting some faith points, and then on the right putting a medic where I want to make sure I'm not losing an operative. And then past that, both players, once they get those home objectives, trying to jockey for place on turning point 2. That said, I'm able to find 2 confirmed kills, one from that vantage point kill on the Rocket Boy, and the second from that Penitent crack throw in the middle objective there. I win initiative and decide to take my Penitent into these 2 Orcs behind the door. My thinking is this Penitent will definitely die, but it'll probably get rid of just a scratch for the turn and get me an injured Orc in the center of the board. Unfortunately, that's not exactly how it turns out. Orc melee is really good, and even my melee operatives are easily dispatched without the use of just a scratch, even with the help of faith points. Just great operatives in combat. That frees up the Breacher Boy to come into that center point, block my door, trying to stake claim to the center objective that has both of my secondaries that have been revealed so far. At this moment, I don't see a huge need to push up the board and make plays. I can play a little passively, make sure I get a few more faith points, so my Pronatus goes, raises the relic again, giving me those juicy faith points. That means the Slasher Boy comes through that door and fights my Militant, or it's not much of a fight, as my Militant only has 1 rune remaining and quickly dies to the Slasher Boy's knives. That means that I can actually bring up my Pergoddess with Flamer and choose a unboosted flame shot into that Slasher Boy, just trying to reduce some of their wounds so I can take a couple shots into that operative and remove it, hopefully later this turn. The normal boy also comes through that door, kind of fully unpacking everything that was back behind that heavy piece of cover, and wants to stake claim to this other middle objective while taking some heavy cover with only 4 wounds, as he has eaten 1 Penitent crit. With that orc on only 4 HP, I know that even with just a scratch and anything else that might be used, I can use my Exactor, a operative that isn't great in melee but can finish off orcs when they're that damaged, to move on to that point, contest taking it, ask the question who else might come onto it, and remove that operative. Well, my opponent knows exactly who's going to go kill my Exactor, and it is the Daka Boy, who will come out from behind that point and just unload all of their shots into the Exactor, removing her from play. At this point, I have used Eyes of the Emperor, which means my pistols have no range restrictions. I take another shot from my comms into that Slasher Boy on the far right there, and that shot actually ends up removing that Slasher Boy from play. And then, without knowing exactly how to push forward to the center, my opponent is going to bring that comms boy that was on his left flank closer into the map, just moving up along the heavy on the right side. Since the Slasher Boy came by and killed my militant, that means this point no longer belongs to me, so the medic will be tasked with getting it back, moving 1 inch and passing. Next, my opponent brings the bomb squig into the center of this point. I see that as an opportunity because that squig is not directly on the point. My Goddess can move up just outside of the 2-inch blast and remove that Breacher Boy from the center and free up those 2 tac ops that I desperately want to score this turn. The Knob comes up and takes some cover from this barricade, looking to do some real damage during point 3 and 4. I move my Condemner up to score that point just over the wall so I can get those tac op points that are both stacked there, scoring me 2 tac ops with this activation. Then I move up my leader, and my leader is going to go ahead and take a shot at the Daka Boy behind cover, and then because she's placed on this point at the end of this turn and on engage, we're going to see some sparks fly at the starting of next turning point. At the end of this turning point, it is 6 primary to 5, meaning we went even 3-3 with the Grot and the Squig on that center objective. I'm able to score recover item and reconsecrate ground, but have yet to score secure vantage. Over on the other side of the board, my militant was killed for eliminate guards. I think we are now at 8 novitiates to another 2 orcs down. But stay tuned for the top of turn point 3, as we might see some interesting novitiate tricks. So for the overhead recap, my Penitent charges in and does nothing. A Slasher Boy comes onto my point, kills the Militant. I'm able to finally confirm that kill with the Exactor, but lose it to a Daka Boy. And then I'm able to find a kill on that Daka Boy with my leader moving into the center, as well as another kill on that 4th objective, which is so important because it's 2 of my tac ops. So this leaves us pretty close on operatives at the end of turning point 2. Let's see how turning point 3 will treat us. Turning point starts and I win initiative again. That makes 2 in a row for me, which I can't be more happy with. And the Grot is placed right next to a bomb squig on that middle point. Now, my opponent knew this because they wanted to get that point, as it was 2 APL to 4 APL on capture, so they end up scoring that. That sets up a great Defenders of the Faith, allowing me to take a free shoot action for each operative on engage on an objective. So here I have not only the Flamer, but also my leader that could take a free shot before activations begin this turning point. Aim my Flamer right towards that bomb squig, and I let fly with a flame shot that will not only blow up the squig, but torrent my Flamer onto the Grot. Neither of those operatives are long for this world, and turning point 3 starts off with 2 work models removed. But the Flamer is not done doing work yet, as it is now her activation, and she moves up the board, tucking behind that piece of terrain and then flaming the Knob with a boosted profile Flamer. That's a lot of boosted damage before my opponent has their first activation in turning point 3. Insults kind of added to injury as this comms boy comes over to try to shoot my leader. Unfortunately, I'm able to kill them in that combat through some unlucky dice, and then my leader is able to activate and remove the orc Knob. The sniper is able, through Overwatch, eventually able to remove my leader. That means a lot of orcs are dead. In fact, there's only 1 remaining orc on the battlefield and 4 novitiates. The scores for this turn kind of start to reflect the novitiates running away with the game, as I'm able to score all the tac ups I want and able to take another, I think, 4 on primary, going forward at 2. So at the start of this overview, we can see that 2 orc operatives are removed. I win initiative and am able to, through the next 2 activations, remove the Knob and then also remove a boy from combat. I do lose 2 operatives in the course of all that, but I'm left with 1 orc to 4 novitiates, essentially getting to run the board from objectives for turning point 3 and turning point 4. So that'll kind of end our game, but just to wrap it up, we'll also go over the scores in turning point 4. So after essentially 2 activations and then talking out the rest of the game, the map will end up like this. 1 novitiate, the Condemner specifically, is going to end up dying to get a score robin ransack for the Kommando player and pushing into the other side of the board. Meanwhile, I walk away with another 4 scored on victory points, and I miss all but secure vantage for secondaries, scoring 5 there. That said, Kyle did a great job. I think this is one of his first dozen games with Commandos. To get opponents for these videos, I've just been posting in my local gaming club Discord chat and seeing whoever's available. And man, what a blast we had together. It was so awesome to see. It's been cool to see in such few games, his skills have been getting better and better. And here, this was a incredibly, at some points I was sweating, as Commandos can be a lot to chew through novitiates. And he was pretty clean on making sure that the bomb squig didn't blow up on anyone, keeping people safe when he wanted to, and scoring a lot of reciprocal, operative trades. So it was cool to see, and it was an awesome time. Thanks again, Kyle, for filming with me and helping me post this battle report. Thanks again, everyone, for dropping by. If you liked the report, if you have any thoughts of how it could be made better, this is only my 2nd report on YouTube. Slowly but surely trying to make better and better videos for y'all. So if you have thoughts about the video, or you have any feedback, or you thought anything was particularly cool, drop a like, drop a comment, follow or subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great time out there playing some awesome Kill Team.